Okay, so now wait for this to pop up on my videos. Actually, no, go to my actual channel. Duh. Yep, right here.
Alrighty.
There. Oh, wrong place. Here. No, not extract text. Clipboard. What?
Hi. Hi, Trevor's channel. Hi.
Oh, what's up, guys? It's T Money. I guess I could have. Guess I probably should have done that first before.
Yeah, nobody the man behind the camera over here.
What's up, guys? It's T Money. We're live talking about the Minnesota Wild schedule. Jake is with me. This is the first time he's going to be live on the channel. He's been live with the Twisted Members group, and I'll probably plug that here if you guys want to be a participant of the Twisted Members group. Head on over to Twisted Wrister Hockey's YouTube channel and get signed up. It's what, $2 a month, I believe.
It's something like that. It's not very much, like I say, because I'm a Prime member of his channel too. Like, you know, with all that stuff, and like I say, you won't regret it because there's so much behind the scenes stuff. There's so much interaction, and he's genuinely like one of the first YouTubers and like hockey YouTubers that I really followed. Like well before he had a massive following. Like where he's at now, even. And also, pardon me, I just had lunch here and stuff like that too. And of course, they always have to release like, you know, big news right after you're either eating or, you know, doing stuff. So
it's like Nick has said if he is asking if he wants to join. Yeah, he can join.
If you want to join, come on in.
We'll talk in Minnesota if that's all right.
We're talking a while, but
I mean, I'm pretty sure he won't mind talking Minnesota for just to leave it because I mean, it is a division rival, so like.
Windy City.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's right. We have two Nicks, so we have to kind of distinguish what Nick we're talking about here.
WCH Nick.
Yep.
And I changed up my background. I added my Wild flag in the background. He says he doesn't care, so that's fine. Yeah, go ahead and join on in, Nick. I direct sent the link for you to join. But yeah, so guys, we have the official schedule for the Minnesota Wild. I'm going to scroll that across the screen right now. I want to go over it more based on. I don't want to go in depth game by game because let's be honest, it's literally only a few weeks removed of the NHL season with the awards just happening last night and the draft happening tomorrow. So basically, can't really say much on how the games are going to go in the future, but we can kind of give an opinion on each game.
Mm-hmm.
So once Nick joins up, I will go full screen.
So pretty much, Trevor, like I'm guessing then we're just going to go month by month and then just give our overall thoughts on how we feel about that month as far as if we're feeling positive, neutral, negative, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean,
while we wait for Nick, I'll be right back and grab myself a beverage.
That's fine. Go open, crack a cold one. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's what I always say. So welcome into the stream, guys. I was meaning to do just a straight up video for this, but I accidentally switched it to live stream. So, I mean, might as well do a live stream. I haven't done one on my channel in looks because I actually don't know how long it's been since I've done a live stream. Whoops, wrong one. Your channel live. My last live stream was actually just a little over a month ago, which was Game 1 quadruple overtime between Florida and Carolina. I was expecting that game to end in the third overtime, but I ended up streaming for a whole hour and a half. So,
yeah. Well, to be fair, I don't think anyone was expecting that game to go to quadruple overtime. So, all right.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, we're just waiting on Nick to join. It looks like Mike Grier has officially made the decision on Erik Karlsson's no movement clause has officially been waived.
Oh, so EK is gone. pretty much.
Yep. I immediately after the Sharks posted his Norris Trophy graphic that they posted, I said thank you for sticking out with us. I know it wasn't a cup win for you, but hopefully you go to a team that wins a cup. Personally, the 3 teams I want to see him go to, personally, I'd love to see him in Seattle because I'm pretty sure that defense, if that defense just gets that, gets the defense, I'm pretty sure that they'll move on to probably the West Final, maybe a cup appearance. I want to see him in Dallas along with Joe Pavelski because I think Joe was there when Carlson was there, wasn't he?
Pavelski in San Jose when Carlson was there?
Yeah.
I think, but
it was in 19.
Then again, my timelines could have been a little off too.
Yeah. And then I think you can agree with this one. I'd love to see him in Minnesota.
I wouldn't mind that. I definitely would love to see that production and stuff on offense at the very least. It's just with the cap hit and all that stuff, would it be feasible without blowing up a lot of pieces here? Because let's put it this way. I would not be opposed if he was here. But I also hope if we do try to do something like that, hopefully we don't mortgage too much. So.
What days will the Wild lose to the Blues this season? Well, go Blues, says John. Well, I don't know. If Bennington keeps playing the way he's playing, St. Louis will not constantly not.
In my opinion, Bennington is literally playing himself out of the league. It's hilarious how. Anyway, look.
Welcome to the stream, Nick. How you doing?
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Kind of interesting.
Figured we get a sense of the. Go ahead.
Kind of interesting that we have a Blackhawks fan talking about the Wild schedule, but
yeah. They play each other 4 times this year.
Yep, 2 home, 2 road.
Yep.
So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with that. We're gonna look at month by month. We're not gonna go into each individual game because it's only a few weeks into the off season. We have the draft tomorrow night, so the rosters now, along with free agency, a couple days after the draft, it's going to shake up completely.
Oh, yeah.
So looking at this month by month, we open up the season October 12th against the reigning Eastern Conference champion Florida Panthers in Minnesota. So it's our home opener and season opener. And then right after that, we take a trip up north of the border into Toronto, and then a couple days off to Montreal. Back home to face LA, Columbus, Edmonton. And then we round off the month with Philadelphia, Washington, back-to-back on the road. And then a day off between that and New Jersey, also on the road. Nick, I know you're the Blackhawks expert here, but I want your opinion on this first month for Minnesota.
Well, honestly, Minnesota was handed an interesting schedule to start for their first month of the season, as they're playing Florida, Toronto, Montreal, LA, Columbus, Philly, and Edmonton and Washington. It looked like you said. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, just because they are all teams that were trying to contend for playoff spots except for Philly. Philly's going to be should be a givey to win, but you know how teams are when they're tanking, because Philadelphia is obviously trying to tank.
Yeah.
So honestly, maybe Minnesota is going to have a hard time coming out to start in that first month of the season.
Yeah, well, that's what we had issues with last year. What was it? We were 3-1 in the month of October last year. However, though, like I say, with the initial schedule, the games that are going to be the most intriguing are obviously the home opener against Florida, your defending Eastern Conference champs. And then Philly is, they should be bad. But if I know anything about Minnesota sports, we can never take a team lightly, considering we lost to Philly in a shootout last year. Columbus, they still are kind of down in the dumps, so I'll have to wait and see there. Montreal is still going to probably be developing early on and stuff like that. let's just say there's a nice mixture of like high-end teams and lower level teams to kind of get an idea of like what we're looking at here to get started with. So it's not just like we're playing, let's say, the Flyers, or we're playing the Blue Jackets. We also have Toronto right away. We have Florida to start everything. We have, Washington, which granted they did lose and didn't make it in the playoffs last year. We have New Jersey, who was a foe to be reckoned with last year. I mean, and again, literally just last season, we couldn't start for damn. Like, I mean, it was horrible how we started last year. Like, the first 3 or 4 games, we were getting outscored 14. Yeah, let's put it this way. The first few games, we gave up 14 goals in like 3 games to start the season last year. So, for me, I need to see, like, right away, the goaltending needs to be up and going here, and we just need to, at the very least, split, go a few games above 500 in the month of October, and then I'll feel pretty good about moving forward because, yeah, it's a nice mixture of hard and easy opponents to kind of get your feet wet and actually see where you are.
I'll throw this out here. October, and I mentioned the teams, not even realizing none of them are Central Division teams. So we're not starting off with the Central Division at all. Not until mid-November, which we'll get to that here in a second. But I think it's kind of rough how Minnesota's not going to be able to see a Central Division opponent until just before their trip to Sweden, which we'll get to that. And then right after that, we're 3 of those 4 games right after are straight up Central Division opponents. So, like I said, we'll get to that. But honestly, I think this is like Nick said, this is an interesting start for Minnesota. But if you can have a strong start against these teams, and you might be able to catch them late in the year, because I know East teams, you play them one at home, one on the road. Kind of.
Yep.
It's kind of. I'm not going to get it on that, but I think it's. How do I say this? Brain work brain. Hello. I think if you can get at least, if you can end 6-3 at the end of the month, you're starting pretty good. So I say the first month is going to be first month's usually going to be rocky.
Well, yeah, because you're figuring out your team.
Yeah. Saving division games for the end, John? No, I'm not saving division games for the end. I'm actually we're going to throw those into the stream as we go. Just this first month did not have a single Central Division opponent.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a very common thing with Minnesota, I've noticed too. It's like last year for the Vikings, we played all of our division opponents at home by week 5. And then we were on the road for the rest of them at the end of the year. This year, I don't think we see an NFC North opponent till like towards the end of the year too. So it's always interesting how they do that schedule. Because remember last year, John, if he's watching, the Blues only had like 2 or 3 games the first 10 days of the season. And there are some teams that already had like 5 games played within like the first 2 weeks. So I always find that fascinating how they determine the schedules and how they, stretch some teams out and then they like throw a bunch of teams like right in a row. Like they'll have like some teams playing like 8 games in like 3 weeks and they'll have some teams playing like 4 or 5 in 3 weeks. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nick, you got any final thoughts for the October schedule?
Not that I could think of. It's just how I basically said. You guys have an interesting schedule to start out. How many of those are home games and how many are road games for you guys?
The banner
4 home, 5 away. I have the banner going across the bottom that says how many games.
Okay. So you guys have a better way to start off the season. You get a little bit even split for a home and a road for a first month of the season. The Hawks only have 2 home games all in the month of October.
Yeesh.
I will say though, it's a lot nicer to have your like a road heavy schedule to begin the year, and then
Oh,
have
yeah,
like
I know.
all your big games at the end of the year at home. I'd almost prefer
Yep.
it that way.
All right. So moving on to the next month, which is November, which that'll, like I said, if you guys want to know how many are home and how many are away, just pay attention to the ticker at the bottom of the screen. It'll tell you as we go. But after our actually really funny thing, after our game in New Jersey to round out October, we host New Jersey to open November. So we have New Jersey and New York to come to town to take on the Devils and Rangers. Then we fly out to take on the Islanders, the Rangers in Madison Square Garden, and then Buffalo. Then come back home for one game, which is Dallas, our first divisional opponent. And then we have the next 5 days off. That is our travel to Sweden for our game against Ottawa and our game against Toronto, which, keep in mind, those are both morning games. So by the time that some people are waking up, a hockey game will be completed.
Mhm.
And then Colorado, Detroit, St. Louis, Nashville, home, away, home, away. So, Jake, what's your opinion on November so far?
Well, obviously, you know that the global game in Sweden, that'll be a very interesting one. Just because, again, Ottawa and Toronto. Ottawa, who knows what to expect with them. Toronto, will still probably be pretty good. And then, like I say, with the amount of Swedes we have on the Wild as of now, it'd be kind of nice for them to go home, see a family and stuff like that. So that benefits us. Also, I think this is the first time in a long time where our first game against St. Louis isn't in the following calendar year. Like, we actually have a game against St. Louis in 23, not, New Year's. It feels like the last couple of years, our first game against St. Louis always falls around New Year's. Then again, I could be totally misinterpreting that, but that team is going to be interesting to watch, And what did you say the home away was?
The home and away is Colorado at home, Detroit in Detroit. That's actually a noon game too. So I'm going to assume that the TV partnership will probably be, I think it's TNT that does the Sunday games. I think so. I cannot confirm that. But
ESPN.
ESPN does it. Okay, so then I'm going to assume that November 26th will be ESPN. And then St. Louis at home on Tuesday, and then Nashville Thursday in Nashville.
So basically, we go bing, bang, bing, bang with division opponents there, with 3 out of those 4 being division, including Colorado, who, granted, they're not going to have Landeskog, but they're always dangerous regardless. Detroit is a dangerous looking team. That'll be intriguing. And then, obviously, Nashville has always been a house of horrors for the Wild. And, it's going to be an interesting way to end the month there. But, again, I'm going to be interested to see the global series. That's probably going to be, like, one of the first big things. And then how do the Wild respond to Dallas after literally getting their tails whipped by them just literally, in the first round? So I'll have a good idea of how we're feeling in the Central once we get towards the end of November. And by then, hopefully your teams kind of have their footing down. Hopefully you kind of understand what they're going to be and sort of have an idea of what to expect by then. Getting all the kinks and stuff out. So again, we could have lucked out there by getting Colorado and those bigger teams towards the middle of the month versus right away, starting off with a meat grinder of a schedule right away. You kind of work into it a little bit. So,
yeah. Nick, what's your thoughts on it?
It's a little bit interesting because usually when they do these global series, it's usually the first 2 games of the regular season. So the teams can just travel over there during the preseason and do their games over in Europe and come back home to start the season out easier, it's going to be leading to a little bit of, I feel like, an issue when it comes to the time zoning for basically crossing the pond, going to a whole new country, getting acclimated to one time zone like that, then coming back, and then you're going to Colorado, Detroit, St. Louis, and Nashville to basically close it out. That could really lead to a interesting nation for the team. And it could lead to a hindrance for the team to hold on to, maybe if they even have momentum going into that month of December.
Yeah. I do have a fan that asked a question. Caden's asking, how do you think the Wild will do on back-to-back? So the Wild do have 2 back-to-back nights in the month of November, and that's the trip to New York to take on the Rangers, and then you go up to Buffalo to take on the Sabres, and then the trip to Sweden. Those are both back-to-back as well. Personally, if the Rangers, I don't know, because I know the Rangers and Sabres could be tough. Ottawa's not good at the moment. They're getting to a point where they're going to be relevant again. But Toronto is going to be tough. They're always tough regular season.
Mm-hmm.
I think if
the thing with Toronto,
go ahead.
The thing with Toronto, who knows if their core being even if it will stay apart this off season. We could potentially see maybe a couple of those core players get moved this off season, and they are going to try and fix that roster for more of a playoff competitive roster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, like I say, this offseason is going to be interesting, but right now I'm just kind of basing it off of how last season went, because that's literally all we have to, base it off of. And like I say, that Rangers to Buffalo game is going to be probably, in my opinion, the 2 toughest games outside of the Sweden games, just because you're going up against a team that is, they're a Stanley Cup caliber team in the Rangers. They have the pieces even without Kane and those guys. And, in Madison Square Garden. And then you're going up against Buffalo, a team that plays us tough regardless. And now they're getting really better. Excuse me there. They're getting better too, and they're looking tough. Heck, it took us to a shootout last year to beat them on Hockey Day in Minnesota. So right now, I have to say that's probably the toughest stretch is going to be the Global Series, and then the Buffalo and Rangers series. Like the Buffalo being back-to-back too. Yeah. And plus, we had a really rough stretch against the Rangers last year. I think we lost both of those games by a combined 28 to 12 or something. It was not good. So,
yeah. Really quick before we continue this, I do have a trade that just got sent to me, and I think this has officially been finalized. Pending a call between the Jets and the Kings, Pierre-Luc Dubois to LA. Wait, what? Yeah, Pierre-Luc Dubois to LA for Iafallo, Valiardi, and Kupari, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and a second round for 2024.
Honestly, if you're the Jets, you take that all day, every day. Because now you actually have 3 solid contributors. You have a draft pick. That's exactly what Winnipeg wanted. They wanted some guys who could come in and contribute right away, get that draft pick to help develop you moving forward. And, like I say, I saw rumors about that earlier. In fact, I think I posted something about that on the Discord or the Instagram. That,
I think you did. Yeah, you had a 50-second voice clip mentioning that.
Looks like it will be an 8-year, $68 million
for PLD.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the schedule. November. I'm gonna round this off really quick. I think November. because I know that all hockey teams have to have a rough month. I think best bet is if we have that rough month early, that's gonna be good for us in the long run. I want that rough month to be November. I say we have a sub 500 record, but it's not massively sub. But that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, if we go 500 in the month of November after going like above 500 in October, I'll be happy because then we'll be right where we need to be moving forward.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
And then Nick, what do you think?
Honestly, it's interesting to see where it goes, just because knowing how the schedule is set up the way it is, it could lead to interesting like momentum swing for the team itself. Because Minnesota last year, weren't they a better team on the road rather than at home last year?
No, I think we're just as good at home, but it's
Okay.
just like the thing with the Wild is they're so streaky that it's crazy. Like we could lose 5 or 6 in a row, rattle off 10 straight. Easily, regardless of what happens. So the key is, can we get more of like the winning streaks versus the losing streaks? Because when the Wild get like down and out, I mean, it could be like a 2-week stretch of just wondering what the heck's going on. And then we get like a shootout win or an overtime win. And before you know it, boom, 10 straight wins. And we're right back at the top again.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. But if you like, basically to kind of wrap this up here for like the month of November, if we can go 500, I'll consider that a win, especially if we can go above 500 in October and be, kind of competing there, because everyone's still going to be relatively close of each other. If we can stay in the hunt, great. But if the season, like if next year is a complete disaster and we do start to fall off, I'd like to know early enough while we could still get assets and stuff pushing forward. But if we can, it's just going to be interesting to see there, especially in the Central just in general. But yeah, I mean, it's basically about all I got to say there. So just stay above 500 in October and stay about 500 in November, and we'll be right where I think we should be.
All right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, guys, we're gonna have to say goodbye to Nick at the moment. He messaged me saying that he's having some technical difficulties. So, Nick, thanks for at least a couple months of opinions for Minnesota. Maybe I'll do a Blackhawks one with you if you plan on doing.
Maybe. I know I'm going live here on my channel in like 3 hours, so I'm trying to get that stuff situated. Maybe if you guys want to hop on, you can.
I might. Like I said, I'll see you if I'm busy.
All right, we'll catch you later, Nick.
Take care.
Later.
All right. So, actually, how sad is this? The next month actually opens up with Chicago. Woo! So, Nick, if you can still hear this, I'm like, that's kind of convenient because
that's hilarious.
I was hoping to get at least your opinion on that game alone. But maybe you could throw it in the chat here. Chat, so I can see the chat to the left of me or the right of me. But so we actually open up the month of December in Chicago, the last month of 2023. We cannot ignore that part. As a Sunday 1:00 afternoon game. So that might be an ESPN game. So
well, I don't know because it's during football season still. It's during the NFL season, so that might just be local at that point.
Sunday there's no games on ESPN for football.
Yeah. But I say, I don't know.
So we open up that month with Chicago, and then we hit a 4-game road trip to Western Canada / America, because we hit Calgary. Okay. I hate this part of the schedule, and I just looked at this. So we play Calgary, have a day off, fly out to British Columbia to play Vancouver, then come back to Alberta to play Edmonton. Why does the league do that? That is
I don't
so,
know. Yeah,
it's
that makes
so-
more sense to go Calgary, Edmonton, then Vancouver, or Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary.
Yeah,
But
because
not
guess who the
Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton. Like,
because
they do
guess
that
who the
all
next
the time.
opponent is after that?
Yeah, exactly.
No, honestly, guess who the next opponent is after that?
Let me guess. Vancouver again?
No.
Seattle.
Yup. So that makes it even worse. So like why are you not scheduling it so that way that the pricing?
Because it makes too much sense, Trevor. It makes too much sense to do that. And you know
that's
the
why we are-
NHL.
That's right. We are talking to the National Hockey League, who doesn't make sense about any goddamn thing in the world. But yeah,
Amen.
So it's Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Seattle for a 4-game road trip. Come home for 2 games versus Calgary and Vancouver. Fly out east to take on Pittsburgh and Boston. That one kind of makes sense because you go to Pittsburgh, go to Boston, then come back home to play Montreal for the final time of the year. And then you play Boston for the final time of the year, all within a week. So you play Boston at home, and on the road, and at home within a week. That's funny. 3 days off, then we play Detroit for the second time. I think that's the final time we play them at. I think that's the only time we play them at home, I believe.
Yeah, because Detroit's now in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I'm just double checking that just to make sure. Am I blind or am I just straight up missing him? I might be blind. Oh, yeah. No, wait, what? Hold on. Am I missing something? I think we only played Detroit twice.
Yeah?
Yeah, we only played Detroit twice. So,
Because they're in the Atlantic Division now. They're no longer in the West, remember.
yeah. So we play Detroit and then come home to play Winnipeg. No, go on the road north of the border to play Winnipeg. And then the following freaking day, come home for the last game of the calendar year, a home game versus Winnipeg. So a home and home. I personally think that this is the stretch that Minnesota may have a tear. 1 loss the entire month.
Yeah.
And their 1 loss will be on the road.
Boston.
On the road in Boston. We can clip Boston at home, but going on the road to lose. Well, no, because the last time did we play Boston last year?
Yeah.
And how did we do last year? We lose both times?
At home, we got our cheeks clapped in, but to be fair, I think we only played like half or 3/4 of our team, though. And that's when Boston was going for their historic runs. So I kind of knew we were going to lose that game. But, I mean, it was competitive when we were at Boston last year, if I remember right. We lost in like overtime, I think. Then again, that was like at the beginning of the year. So, and who knows? Boston could be a very different team come October than we played last year. I mean, they already lost Taylor Hall and and Foligno, and there's probably going to be more expected. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I know that because I know that they're going to have to get rid of either Allmark. They're not going to get rid of Allmark. Hell no. Boston's not getting rid of Allmark. So that means they're going to have to get rid of their backup goaltender. Because I think because their cap space is through the ceiling, I believe.
Yeah. And they also don't have any draft picks either because they trade them all for the players. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, kind of quickly, just talking about the month of December. Like I say, now we're starting to get to the beefy part of the schedule. Now we're starting to get into that time of year where teams are made, where, alrighty, are we actually contenders or are we going to be more going for the, Bedard sweepstakes type of thing? Because I don't know who the top prospect for 24 is. So
it's the guy that's based out of San Jose or the Bay Area. Okay. That I do know. Nick mentioned that. what was it? On one of the past member stream. But yeah, it's a guy that's based out of Northern California. And
right.
I'm kind of hoping that if the Sharks do get the first overall pick next year, I'm praying to God that they do, because that would not only accelerate our rebuild a little bit faster, it means that we're definitely going to be on the right track and get back to relevancy quicker than what we probably need to. But I would like to get back to relevancy. And that's literally because I was spoiled for 10 straight years of Sharks hockey. So this is all new to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then as a Minnesota sports fan, I can tell you that it's rare when we get a long stretch of excellence, because the Wild also have been more times than not a playoff team themselves. Granted, we usually don't do much with it, but we have been a playoff team for like the better part of 10 out of the last 11 or 10 out of the last 12 seasons too. So, but yeah, like I say, December is going to be the month where we really see what this team looks like, especially because, we start playing some of the bigger teams again. Seattle, they went on a run. Calgary's, it'll be interesting to see there. Edmonton was, as close as they've been in a long time to relevancy and like a cup run and stuff like that. They actually have some horses. Winnipeg, they're going to be losing a lot of big pieces, but if they can, get some decent ones back, they'll still be a thorn in the side. So, of course, Boston,
like not even 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but and like I say, LA is going to be, they're going to be another tough team too. So basically, this month is going to be where we find out what the Wild are made of.
Yeah. I will also say, for the Central Division standpoint for the schedule, because we only play the Central Division 1, 2, 3 times this month. Two of them being Winnipeg. You mentioned that you didn't want Blake Wheeler. Hear me out when I say this before you give the slightest bit of disagreement really quick. Imagine we do get Blake Wheeler and then we have him play against Winnipeg and then off him to another team. Just to say, oh, hey, by the way, you guys screwed me over. I was promised something and I got nothing.
Well, here's the thing, though. I will say, though, with Guerin as our GM, he's like a Belichick in that way. Like, if you even try to run this team, like, if you even try to, talk behind our backs or do this or do that, you're gone. If you even try to pull that shit down here that you did in Winnipeg, you're gone. With that said, though, can he still contribute? Maybe. It's just the thing is, he's also, how old is he? He's got to be up there. Like,
Wheeler?
Yeah. He's been around a long time. Like, hell, he was on the last iteration of the Thrashers for a year before moving up to Winnipeg.
36. So so he's not up there in age, like how old he played when he was or how old it was when what the heck? How old when Joe Thornton stopped playing, when he was in he was well into his 40s. Mm-hmm. But he's getting to a point where it's like, okay, his time is running low. He needs to go to a team that will accept the type of player that he is, along with a team that's cup contender. I think Minnesota could be a good pivot point. So like he's on Winnipeg, like he's like on Winnipeg right here. Minnesota's right here. Turn and then go to a cup contender. Because yes, I know we're not a fan of Blake Wheeler. I mean, I had a little bit of rivalry when I was playing NHL 23. I always had a beef with him for some reason. But beside the point, he's a well-respected human off the ice. So like I'm not going to ignore that. And I want to see, like, it would be criminal to see. Yeah. It's criminal to see players that are good that don't win the cup. It's criminal.
Oh yeah. Well, let's put it this way though, Trevor. I'd much rather have Scheifele than Wheeler because we need a center. At least Shifley is one of those guys that we can plug in at one of our positions of need. So I'd much rather have Shifley over Wheeler, but I don't know, like with this, like what he's going to be asking for cap or this or that, or hell, even if he leaves Winnipeg, because he's still under contract, right?
Let me double check that. Cap friendly, come through clutch here. Oh wait, that's actually what I wanted right here. Cap friendly, and I want to look up Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler. He has 1 year left on his contract, and it is $8.25 million. So if Winnipeg decided to get rid of him, the following season he's a UFA. So in technicality, if Minnesota wants to chase him, because he is a centerman, he is a right wing. He's right wing mainly, but his secondary position is a centerman. And I would take that. I would take that because he would be good. He'd be good third or fourth liner. And you said we do need a depth on center.
Yeah.
So with him, his contract expiring not this season, but the following season, I think if Minnesota chases him down, we have to try and go get him a cup. But that's just personal opinion.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, too, is it's like, are the Wild actually at that point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of decisions to be made here. Like kind of, like just like wrapping up 2023 as a whole for, this 23-24 season. If the Wild are above 500 going into 2024, I like our chances. But if we're like below 500, going into 2024, I could see some massive shakeup potential, depending on how bad we are. So if we can just, stay above 500, stay in the playoff hunt, stay in the push, then, again, I like our chances. And then, because I know that coming up in January, I think January is the heaviest month.
January is the heaviest game month.
So, yeah.
Basically, almost a game every other night.
So, yeah. And then if you're above 500 going into that gauntlet of just game-wise, maybe not necessarily win or loss-wise, but just the amount of games you play, when you said it's basically every other day, if we can get out of that month above 500, then I really like our chances going into a playoff push. So, But anyway, let's go ahead and kind of discuss January then.
Yep. So ring in the new year. Ding, 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 ding. We open up the year of 2024 against the Calgary Flames and the Tampa Bay Lightning at home. Not back-to-back nights, but there were back-to-back nights in this month. I will get to those. Then we traveled out to Ohio to take on the Jackets, come back home for the start of a home-and-home against the Dallas Stars, the second and third time we will see them this year. Come back home for three games in 4 nights after a break between that, which will start with Philadelphia, Arizona, and then the Islanders. So Philadelphia and Arizona are back-to-back. New York is the game after the back-to-back. Then we get 2 days off. Then during those 2 days off, we hit the road, head to South Beach to take on Tampa Bay and Florida, back-to-back nights. Head out to Carolina. By the way, another 3 games in 4 nights, except this one is road. This time is a 3-game road trip. And then we close out the quote-unquote first half of the month against Washington, Nashville, and Anaheim. And Anaheim being Hockey Day in Minnesota.
Oh, okay. So that's the Hockey Day game is Anaheim. That should be interesting.
Yep. So the home heavy schedule here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 home games in January, with 5 of them being away games. So what are your opinions on this one, Jake?
This is the month right here we have to make our hay. Like I say, 9 home games in the month of January. This is where you can bank those points, give yourself a nice cushion, and, hopefully not give everybody in the state of hockey a heart attack.
Yeah.
But like I say, though, with the month being home heavy, you've got to take advantage of those while you can. You have to win almost, if you can, try to win. Basically, in a perfect world, we go 9-0 during those home games. But even if you can go 7-2, then I like our chances because, again, 9 home games during the middle of the season, as we push towards the All-Star break, as we push towards, the trade deadline, as we push towards all that stuff. This is really going to be telling, too, because this is by far, I think, our most home games during a month the entire season.
I think it is. I'm looking at the bottom right now. Yeah, it looks like January is the most. March being the second most, which we'll get to that here, a little later because, we're 46 minutes into the stream, and we haven't even finished the first half of the season yet. But I'm really excited to see if Minnesota, if we can, like I said, if we can go 7-2 in just those home games, the road games are basically going to be null and void. Because if we could lose 1, 2, 3, 4, we could lose all 5 of those games, and we can end that month 7-7. That's not that. I don't want that to happen because that's not that we cannot afford that. This is the month where we need to win. Let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Don't know how to do math here. We have 14 games the month of January. We've got to win at least 10 of these games.
You were on my mind there. If we could get 10 wins in the month of January, then we'll be sitting pretty because, like I say, that is arguably, in my opinion, January is the most pivotal month because you're coming off of, the first half of the year. Typically, your heaviest schedules are going to be in that month, like in the middle of the season like that. How do you respond? How do you push forward? How do you look, when you're basically playing about half the month, like when you have half the games in a month, because you said 14 games in 31 days. How do you respond? How do you look going into February? How do you look going into the trade deadline? How are you looking going into January? Because all it takes is one solid month to push you ahead or to tank your hopes. So January is going to probably be the most important month.
I 100% agree. And then to close it out with Hockey Day in Minnesota, that's a game you've got to win. You have got to win Hockey Day in not Hockey Day in America. I don't know when that is because that never gets advertised, but you got to win Hockey Day in Minnesota. That's like guaranteed. If you don't win, and it's against freaking it's against a freaking
Anaheim, you said.
Anaheim team that's not going to be relevant for 3 to 4 years. So you're basically playing baseball with yourself, throwing the ball up, and you better whack that 5,000 feet to
yeah. But who knows, though? Like I say, now we're getting towards the time of the year where we start seeing which teams are real and which teams are going to be hunting for the San Jose product. This is about that time when everything splits apart and you see the cream rise to the top and the bottom drop below.
And then you see the middle just like, hey, we're better than you. No, we're better than you. No, we're better than you. Better than you. Yeah. That's the fun hockey right there, where it's like they're all bunched together, and they're like, a win puts them a point ahead. But that team that just jumped lost, and the team that they just jumped won the next night. Hey, they're back. That's the best part about this season.
Oh yeah.
And then after that, we get into the All-Star weekend. starting February 2nd with the skills competition in Toronto this year. By the way, that logo, yeah. And then the third being the All-Star game itself. And I don't know if they've announced this, but I don't know if they're bringing back the tournament, the the divisional tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they go back to East versus West. That was the fun one. Actually, my favorite All-Star process that they did, that's not the word, but there's another word for it. My favorite All-Star was the one they did in Columbus and Carolina the year prior. No, Columbus, and then the one they did the year prior to that. I don't remember who was before that, but how they had the fantasy draft where they had, because like the All-Star game is just supposed to be meant for having fun.
Yeah.
Yes, you can put up the $1 million towards the winning side, and then it gets split out evenly amongst the players. And I don't mind that. I mean, at least they're playing for something. But I don't like the fact that it's now, hey, this isn't for anything, but this is still a competition. The All-Star game is meant to be for fun. If you're not going to have fun, what the heck's the point of having the All-Star game? It's kind of like the Pro Bowl. It's pointless. It's not fun to watch anymore.
Yeah, it's just getting very, I don't know, it's almost getting cartoonish. Like to a point where it's like, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying we have to go out there and play, you know, like you would a normal game, you know, but it's one of those things where it's like, as a fan, I mean, you know, it's bad when most hockey fans are like, oh, well, let's see what else is on. It's the All-Star weekend, you know. And that's just the way it's been in All-Star games over the last few years, other than I'd say baseball. Baseball probably still has the best All-Star game. Because I remember there was a point where it was like basically home field advantage for the World Series was based off of who won the AL and NL All-Star game.
Which I don't think they do that anymore, unless that's still a thing, because I've been told that they don't do that anymore. It's who's the better seed.
Mm-hmm.
But personal opinion, and then we'll wrap up the All-Star game and then get back into the month, because I got a little disappointing news to share about that. My personal All-Star for this year for Minnesota, I'm going to pick two of them. It's going to be Jared Spurgeon, and it's going to be Gustafson. Those are going to be my two. Who do you think?
I still got to give it to Kaprizov.
Yeah.
Kaprizov.
Let's see who gets the second one.
Well, it depends. You know, like if they re-sign Gustafson or whatever happens there, because that still kind of spooks me that we haven't re-signed him yet. Especially after we re-sign that prospect. But
let me look and see what his contract's at. Is his name Philip?
Yep, it's like Fillip, I believe. But yeah, regardless, if he's still on the team, I could see Gus being the goaltender. But my money's on Kaprizov still.
Yeah. Philip Gustafson, there he is. He's an RFA. So he has to re-sign with Minnesota.
Or get offer sheeted.
Or that too. But yeah, he currently has it was only a 2-year contract with hold on. Hold on a second. Am I missing this? Am I reading this right? Oh, that's right. We picked him up from Ottawa, didn't we?
Yep.
Okay, so his current contract was with Ottawa. I'll have to look at Minnesota's actual cap room to see what it's at. Let me see here. They have $8 million to work with. So, if I'm reading that right, it's the projected cap space is the one I'm looking at, right? The one that I need to look at.
So, yep.
So yeah, so they have $8,293,912 to work with. So I could see maybe a 3-year deal, $5 million, or maybe just a little bit more, because if we want to sign any free agents during the offseason, then we're not. Then we need to make sure that we have the space for that.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah, anyway, back to. Go ahead.
I'm just saying it'll be interesting. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and I suppose round out the month of February because it doesn't seem like it's that big of a month for us.
No, it really isn't. It's kind of a sleep schedule for me personally. But our first game of the second half of the year isn't even until February 7th. That's a whole week and 4 days out from our last game, which was Anaheim. So we open up the second half in Chicago for an 8:30 start. I'm going to assume that's a Wednesday night hockey thing on like TNT or something. That's gotta be.
Mm-hmm.
But so we open up the second half with Chicago. Then we go back home to play Pittsburgh. Our first time we're playing Pittsburgh this year, that year, or this coming schedule. Then we hit the road again. We head out and we take on. This is gonna hurt saying this statement, and you possibly know why. The reigning defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. I'm going to slap myself because that hurt like a bitch to say. In Vegas, and then we head out, and then we head south from Vegas to the Mullet to take on the Coyotes. Come back home to take on Buffalo, and then Vancouver, and then right after Vancouver, the following night is our last game against Winnipeg. Our third game against Winnipeg. My bad. In Winnipeg, and then we do another Western United States / Canada visit with Edmonton and then Seattle, which that one now makes more sense. Come back home for Carolina, and then head back out to Nashville to round out the leap year February, because that is actually on February 29th.
Ooh.
So we have an extra day of hockey this year. Now, I mentioned this to a friend of mine. I think it was Elijah that I mentioned this. He's one of my subscribers, Jake.
All right.
I think what the NHL needs to do, and please tell me you can agree with me on this. Every schedule, there is a leap year, which so means every 4 years, there has to be one extra game played in the entire NHL. So one team is granted an 83rd game. That's not a bad idea.
It'd be interesting. It definitely would be interesting. I mean, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but it would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, it definitely would be interesting. Just because, it doesn't happen that often. Or make it like a specialty day, like where every team that plays on, February 29th has to wear an alternate jersey or something, Just do something weird like that, Make it fun. But yeah, like I say, I mean, too, like, I guess, in the month of February, because the month of February last year almost killed us.
Yeah.
It felt like.
Well,
coming out of the All-Star break. Yeah, coming out of the All-Star break, I mean, we were dead. We were slow. We looked like crap. Coming out of that All-Star break. But we managed to rattle it off going into March, and then we redeemed ourselves, and we were right there at the end. So if we can avoid a February lull coming out of the break, like I say, as long as we're still above 500 fighting for the Central here, then I like our chances to potentially compete again for the Central maybe. But again, like I say, that's still a long time out. There's still a lot of things that could happen. There's a lot of things that probably will happen, like injuries or this or that or the other thing, from team to team. You can never predict a lot of that stuff, but based off of what happened last year, if we can have a better month of February coming out of the All-Star break while still being competitive, that's going to be the key to keep momentum going forward here. And who knows? We could even still be competing for the Central at this point. I'm not saying we will, not saying we won't, but February is what kind of, in my opinion, almost did us in last year. So we have to play better coming out of the All-Star break.
I will agree with that. I will say this. Yes, February for the Wild last year was, we're not even going to talk about how bad it was. I will say, if you can rattle off a 1 game below 500 month of February, you're sitting pretty. But I'll say this: the ceiling the low point for Minnesota for the month of February is got to be below 500 minimum. Minimum. If you're anything below that, that's a failure of a month, and you're now struggling with 2 months left in the season to get a playoff spot.
Yeah, especially because, as we kind of hinted to earlier, going into the month of March and then going into April, because I think we have like our longest road and home stretches during those last 2 months. So that's really going to determine how you set yourself up for the final push, for the playoff push, if you may say. If you come out of February on top, like you said, like at 500 or above, then you're really looking good going into March and going into April, because not too long after that, we have our longest home streak, which we could build some momentum off of. So, and like I say, by then, there's a lot at play there, but just please, for the love of God, don't look like death warmed over after the All-Star break. Please.
I mean, but the only thing if we do, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, because they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days before they're in between games as a team. I will give them the benefit of the doubt for at least the Chicago game. Like, if Chicago clips us that night, that's perfectly fine. It's a little rusty, perfectly fine with that. Pittsburgh, I can understand, because Pittsburgh is still somewhat relevant. They just barely missed the playoffs this past year. So that's where I was like, okay, now I'm going to start getting a little critical. And then now you get to Vegas. Vegas is a team that we should beat. I'm sorry. That Vegas run had no one on it that we know, other than Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and Mark Chasson.
Yeah, but that's the same team. But that's the same Vegas team that absolutely cooked us multiple times last season. Whether it be due to our own stupidity or them just being that much better. But like I say, though, we're at that time of year. Injuries are going to be a key. Depth is going to be a key. What does your team look like going into that stretch? Because I've seen it before, too, where you're literally 1 or 2 injuries away from a completely different outlook. Completely different outlook. So, who knows? But if you're competing and you're fighting and you're still in like a central, battle, you need to win that month to give you the momentum to go into the final 2 months.
Yeah. I will say, okay, I'll take my comment back. If we even lose to Vegas, I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt, because then the next opponent is Arizona. That's a team we should beat. That's a team we should beat, up and down, sheet everything, on the ice, off the ice, you name it. That's a team that
we lost both of the games at Mullet last year. And that was one of my rantiest videos I've ever done on my channel. At work, nonetheless.
So if we can get the win against Arizona, that's a 1-3 start to the season. That's a little unacceptable, but considering the fact that you have Pittsburgh and Vegas as one of your 2 opponents,
Mhm.
And Chicago, you never know what team Chicago is going to hit the ice with. Arizona is the team that you know is not a good team, and I'm sorry for Arizona fans. They're not a good team. This is a team that you need to beat.
Bingo.
Because then 2 days after that, you're taking on a Buffalo team who, is hungry for a playoff berth for the first time since the early 2010s, late 2000s.
Mhm.
So that team is making the push. If you beat them, that's fine. If you lose to them, that's also fine.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo's not a team to screw around with. Because then you got Vancouver and Winnipeg back-to-back nights, one at home, one on the road. Those are two teams you need to beat.
Bingo.
100%. And then Edmonton's going to be tough. Seattle's going to be tough. Carolina's tough always.
Oh,
and then Nashville. So I said earlier that November might be the month that's going to be rough. Don't rule out February as a month that's going to be rough for us. That month, the month of February, has got to be a month we have a little cloud above our head saying, okay, hold on. Well, what's going on here?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, again, it'll be interesting. So,
next, the month of March. We're in the last 2 months of the year where we open up. So we have 2 road games to start technically that month. The Nashville one on the 29th of February, and then you have the St. Louis game that's Saturday. And then right after the Saturday, that St. Louis game, you come back home and you have a well-known goaltender, hopefully, in that lineup, in the San Jose Sharks, making their first trip to Minnesota this late in the year. San Jose plays all 3 of their games against Minnesota in the last 2 months of the season.
which is interesting because last year we played, it was like the first 2 games were like in November, I think.
I don't remember. Like I said, for a Sharks fan, last season was really forgettable.
Understandable, but then again, we lost to you guys twice, so.
Yeah. But after that Sharks game, we get this is gonna sound weird because it's kind of off to say this. We get a rare 3-day break.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking through we don't have a 3-day break. We had one in December that I didn't mention, and then we have one in November because of the traveling, but that's beside the point. But yeah, we have a rare 3-day break, and then we go on the road to Arizona again, and then up to Colorado. Then you come home to play Nashville, Arizona, and in Anaheim. Go on the road to St. Louis, and then you get a 2-day break before you do the 2 of the 3 California road swing. So you play Anaheim and LA back-to-back nights, come back home to play St. Louis, and then you get 4 days off, and then that's when we start our 5-game homestand, starting off with San Jose again, and then Vegas to round out the month of March. So I think it's weird how this game, it's not game heavy. It's 7 home, 6 away, but it's day off heavy.
Which honestly, by that point of the year, might be a good thing.
Because you don't know who's going to be injured and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Especially because you've already played like 8 or what was it, about between October and March? It's like 5 months of hockey and intense playing and this and that. And anytime you can get a couple extra days off to let your legs rest while still being in the mode is a good thing.
Yeah,
especially for older teams and teams that have injury-prone players.
Yep. If March has got to be This is not an easy task to ask. But I think March is the month that that Minnesota has to either go undefeated or lose 2 games.
And that's just it too, though. Like Minnesota has that capability because last year, or literally just a couple months ago, we saw that. Like we saw the Wild go on a tear in the month of March, go on an absolute tear to end the regular season. And then the playoffs, well, I won't go back down that. I still think my liver hasn't recovered from that. But anyway. But regardless,
who hasn't?
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason why there's so many breweries in Minnesota, as I made that joke about.
Yep. But
yeah.
I think that, and this is gonna sound very biased. I think the 2 games that Minnesota loses are both Sharks games. Both the Sharks games. Because you can beat Vegas at home. You technically can beat every team that you see at home this year. The ones
I don't know. I still think we at least take one, if not both, against San Jose at home. Now, if it were in San Jose, that's a different story.
Yeah, because I see the Sharks maybe winning. Sharks fans be thirsty with no cups. Yeah. Screw you, Ryan!
Well, plus it's literally, like I say, it's literally the month of March.
Screw you, Ryan. God dang it.
What team does he root for then?
He's my buddy. He's not a big, actually, no, it's not right. Screw you, Chris. My buddy Ryan and Chris hang out a lot, and Chris is a Pittsburgh fan, so
interesting. Oh, yeah, that makes it nice and spicy for you.
Oh, no idea. Yeah, that's okay. Pittsburgh's about to not be relevant for 5 years?
Yeah, probably.
But to round out that month, the month of March. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 7 home games in March, and then 6 on the road. You've got to win. You got to win all the games on the road. You've got to. I know Colorado's not an easy place to go in and win, but with the announcement a couple months ago that their captain is not even going to be in the roster this coming season, that's where you got to get them. Colorado's about to miss the playoffs for about 2 or 3 years. Actually, no, they'll miss the playoffs next year because of the absence of what's their captain's name? I'm blanking.
Crosby?
What is it?
No, Landeskog.
Landeskog, thank you. Yeah, with the absence of Landeskog this coming season, I think Colorado doesn't have that leadership role. Yes, they have veterans, but McKinnon's not really a leader, in my personal opinion. He's a very good player, though. Very good player. Don't get me wrong. Just because I'm saying he's not a leader does not mean he's not a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Look at his goal against St. Louis in their cup run. Oh my God, that was dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, Cale Makar's a good defenseman, but yeah, that's what I say. You got to win all the road games, especially the ones against Anaheim, which again, Anaheim's not good, and then LA, who's about to probably make a Western Conference final run with their now acquiring of Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, LA is going to be scary this year,
and that scares me as a Sharks fan. Because the original rivalry was San Jose and LA. Still beat LA. Final month of the year is against Ottawa, Colorado, and Winnipeg. The last time we will see Ottawa and Winnipeg this year. And that rounds out our 5-game homestand. And then we hit the road for our final road trip of the year in Chicago for a 2:30 start. I'm going to assume that's an ESPN doubleheader. Colorado, Vegas, and San Jose back-to-back nights. Los Angeles to round out our road schedule. and then Seattle to round out our regular season. So personally, I think this month can't. April, yeah. If you have a playoff spot clinched, this month really wouldn't matter. You just want to stay. You want to stay relevant and be in contention for the top of the Central.
Oh yeah. Now, like
And
I
the
say,
only
yeah. Well, go ahead.
And the only time that you're going to be able to do that is if Colorado's not good, if Nashville's not good. I don't think Nashville is good at all. If Dallas has a slip up, recently it's been the battle between Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I see Colorado missing the playoffs this year, so that fourth team that is in the hunt, that other team that's in the hunt, I can see being Nashville or Winnipeg.
All right.
Winnipeg did make the playoffs. Winnipeg did make the playoffs. We lost round 1 to Vegas. So, yeah, I can see those three teams making a run for the Central Division title. But honestly, Minnesota should have a Central Division title by now. The fact that they don't is concerning. Well, they do have one, I'm pretty sure, but it's been a while since they've won one. So they're definitely hungry for a Central Division title. But yeah, so what do you think of those last month?
Again, it just depends, because as much as I love to predict and stuff like that, this early on, it's always going to be interesting to see, because you never know going into like March and April just where you'll be at. Because if the Wild are like in the similar spot they were last season, as far as, in the playoffs and stuff like that, I could see us potentially bringing up some of the younger prospects and stuff like that and getting more of an idea. But like I say too, if we're, out of the playoffs, heaven forbid, or if something like that happens, I could see us going for something like that as well. But again, it's just going to be interesting to see, because the last 2 months of the year are always the most important 2 months of the year, because then you kind of build yourself up for the future and build yourself up to see, like, okay, how do you look going into the playoffs, or how do your prospects look, or what do you need to do to get back to relevancy come 24-25? So, but yeah, honestly, to end the schedule, it's a decently favorable schedule to end the year as far as like where we are, like a level playing field. But yeah, like I say, we'll just wait and see.
Yeah. I really think that, like I said, if you're pushing for the Central Division title, the month of March is going to be huge. If you go undefeated in the month of March, you are either already clinched or you're 3 or 4 wins away from clinching.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see Minnesota having their Central Division title for the first time since what? Early 2000s?
Maybe, yeah. Well, if you really, like, in my personal opinion, if you were to ask me as of right now, June 27th at 4:22 Central Standard Time, the Wild will make the playoffs. But I don't know if we'll win the Central. Just because, like I say, I'm one of those who's kind of cautiously optimistic, but I still feel like we have enough pieces. The schedule is built in a way where, yeah, we have a nice balance of hard opponents and easy quote-unquote opponents, where, we can at least get enough confidence in us to push forward and to push, when we do have some minor slumps and stuff. But again, my predictions are we make the playoffs. I just don't know if we'll win the Central, because you still can't count out Colorado until they're basically out. Winnipeg, who knows? Chicago, probably not. St. Louis could bounce back. Nashville, probably not. Dallas, I mean, Dallas is probably, in my opinion, at this point, our bigger rival for the Central. Just because, again, St. Louis, I don't know. Winnipeg has been getting, it's probably going to get rid of a lot of key pieces. Chicago's still a few years away, and Nashville is kind of at that like crossroads of rebuilding and retooling.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's setting up to be a Dallas versus Minnesota for the Central next year, as of right now. Now, talk to me in about 4 months when the schedule begins. It could be a completely different story.
And I just looked it up just to make sure. Unfortunately, I had to use Wikipedia because I cannot find it anywhere else. Their only division championship was the 07-08 season. So we are in desperate need of a Central Division anything.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have a President's Trophy, which is, I don't mind that, because President's Trophy is a curse.
Yep. Just ask Boston and Tampa.
Don't ask Chicago, though.
Yeah, they're the last ones who won it with the President's Trophy. So,
yeah.
That was what, 2013?
Yeah, that was the shortened season.
So, yeah.
But I'm going to be 100% honest. If Nick is still watching this, I'm not getting into that.
Yeah.
For reasons. But yeah, who do you think? I gotta close this out, but I want to ask one other question. What player needs to show up to help Minnesota? That's not Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Spurgeon.
Rossi. I need to see Rossi. Not for 10 games, not for 11 games, the entire season. I need to see Rossi. I need to see him. Evason, I need to see Rossi because that is going to be a key piece for the future.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have Kaprizov. We have Boldy. Eck is still going to be there. Spurgeon still has a few years left. And stuff like that here. But I need to see Rossi. And I'll keep saying that until I see him for more than 10 games. Because I need to see what we have with this kid. I need to see improvement. For me, I was kind of like debating this and talking about this too. If I could see him up in an elevated role, looking good, and even if he could get us 15 or 20 goals next year, I'll consider that enough improvement to show to me that he is worthy of being an NHL top player. Because now we'll actually see him. Now we'll actually get an idea. Now, if you want me to ask like the second player, I'm going to say Faber. Just because of our defensive group. Because with the loss of Dumbo, how are we going to seal that back end? How are we going to seal our defensive lines? How is he going to, improve on what he did in the playoffs? And there's other key pieces, too, that I'm curious to see. Marcus Foligno could be a juicy name to look at. Duhaime, I've been hearing rumors that he might be traded or, traded away. I can't confirm nor deny all that stuff. Like I say, there's so much rumors and so many rumors out there that it makes it difficult to believe anything anymore. But, yeah, right now, for me, the player I need to see is Rossi. I need to see that he's an NHL eligible player.
Yeah, because he's like one of the best players to play in the American Hockey League, and but for some reason there's that level that prevents him from being an NHL caliber player. Mm-hmm. Like he can tear it up in the American Hockey League, but the instant he gets to the National, it's like
he looks lost. He looks scared. He looks like he's never played hockey before. Like he's almost scared to get hit. He's almost scared to, try anything. And I don't know if it's just because, like I say, he's still kind of, getting back to his because remember, it wasn't that long ago. Rossi might not have even been here. Like there was a real possibility he could have passed away. Like he had really bad COVID that knocked him out for an entire year of development. And plus, down there in Iowa, like you can attest, they let go of Arnie and those guys, and now we have someone from the the Minnesota Wild coaching staff down there to basically help develop like what Guerin wants. So hopefully, this is the year Rossi takes that step to be an everyday NHL player. I'm not saying you have to go out there and pot 60 goals. 150 points. No, just give me 15 goals, 15 to 20 goals in an 82 game stretch while still looking competent, still looking like a plus player, and still looking like you belong, Play your role and just do something for us.
And that's why there's such thing as preseason. Yes, the games don't matter, but they're really important for the players because when preseason comes around, we already had that schedule released. So we're not going to talk about preseason because none of the games are going to matter towards the regular season. But if you can have a solid preseason, then you're guaranteed a roster spot. The only thing that hurt Rossi's development was the fact that he didn't get the playing time. The roster was full. He was a healthy scratch every dang night. So instead of keeping him on the bench, and this was what a lot of Wild fans were saying, send him back down to Iowa. And yes, it's bad to say, but the longer they're in Iowa, the longer that they're gonna the better they're gonna be.
Yeah. And remember too, like I say too, Evason, for whatever reason, also has a bad habit of not trying to play a lot of the younger guys right away, like giving them chances to play and show what they're made of. That's been an issue that I've had with him over the last few years. So between that and between maybe him not having a roster spot or this, that, it was basically just a perfect storm of disaster, basically. But now, like I say, now with the cap issues, now with potentially more holes on the roster, now is your chance to show us that you can be an NHL center. I'm not saying he has to be the top line center. I'm just saying he has to be a top contributor. Even if you keep the Hartman line to start the year and you put him at like the second line or third line, have him center one of those lines. Have Ek be the second line between Boldy. Have him be like the third line and have Gaudreau be down there too. Or like even have him in the fourth, It'll be interesting to see what Guerin does, but I have to see Rossi. I have to see Rossi to see how he's developing in his game here.
I will say, I think the best line combination you can possibly make if Rossi ends up getting to Minnesota, because there is the possibility he doesn't this year. Let's not ignore that. There's the possibility he does stay down here in Des Moines. But the best line combination that I think that Bill Guerin can put on the ice is a line that has Rossi and Boldy on it together.
Bingo.
That they have great line chemistry on that, and I got to watch that during that shortened AHL season.
It's just the only thing is too. The reason why it'll be interesting because where would you put Ek? Would you put him on like the top line where Hartman is between Kaprizov and right now Zuccarello? Or would you put him like in the third line and then move Gaudreau to the fourth line? You know what I mean? Because in my opinion, Ek, Boldy, and Johansson were arguably one of our best lines last year in all of the Wild lines. Like, they were arguably one of our top lines when they were humming. And I think And for the first time in a while, Boldy actually looked competent with Johansson and Eck on his line. Because before that, when they were trying to shuffle lines, he looked like a lost puppy out there, Boldy did. So, like I say, it's going to be interesting to see here where they do try to put in Rossi if he does end up in Minnesota.
Yeah. So looking at we gotta close this out here soon. I will say to end this off, Minnesota. I know that we're still in a state where we're playoff contenders, but we're not cup contenders.
Mhm.
We got to start making it. We got to start getting to a point where we're conference contenders first. So, or at least hell, get out of the first round.
Bingo.
If we get out of the first round, I think we can all be happy, even though we'll be mad probably 5 or 6 games later.
Yeah. But the thing is, yeah, like what you said there, to kind of like give my last point here too, this is really I think either this year or next year is the last really bad year of the buyouts. So for all the Wild fans that are watching this, and Trevor, you could probably attest to this too, let's see what Billy G does after the buyouts. Let's see what he does before we start picketing to get him out of town here. If anything, maybe move Evason if like the future is a little different and you want to go more of a younger route versus more of like your typical checking defensive oriented game plan. But before we start, really, putting Guerin and Evason to the fire here, let's at least let these contracts roll out. Let's get through this next, little bit of cap hell and then go from there.
Yeah. So there's only a couple people watching right now, so I'm pretty sure we're good to just sign off for today. But this was, like I said, we're gonna be in for a good ride for Wild hockey this year. Even the Sharks schedule, I'll have to actually examine that one before I can even possibly either produce a video for it or I just post something in the Twisted members group. But yeah, like I said, if you guys want to become a Twisted Wristed members group, head on over to our buddy Nick from Twisted Wrister Hockey's YouTube channel. Sign up for his membership. It's about $1.99 to $2.99 a month. I don't know the exact price off the top of my head, but it's worth getting because you got a bunch of nice people in the Instagram chat that me and Nick and Jake, because Nick was here earlier. We're all in that chat. We had very great conversations, hockey related, and there's a little smack talk between all of our teams. We're not going to ignore that. There's a bit of smack talk, but
hey,
yeah,
it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun though.
Yep, and you also get exclusive live streams by Nick himself. So if you guys are interested on that, head on over to his channel. Hit the subscribe button on his and join his membership. If you guys do like these types of videos, do leave the like and hit the subscribe button. Jake, I'll try. You'll all remember to put your channel in my description last time. If you guys want it, head over to Jake's channel as well. He does jersey, not opening, but you just pull it out from the side and you say, "Oh, hey, here it is."
Yeah, jersey pickups, jersey unboxings, and Minnesota Wild and Minnesota Vikings content is typically what I stick to and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I say, if you like watching jerseys unboxed, if you like listening to a Wild and Vikings fans' thought on the seasons and stuff like that, be sure to check it out because, well, I think you might find something you'll like. So,
oh yeah, I definitely got into the jersey openings, but. Anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. We have had a lot of people comment. I never got the chance to actually get into the comments, but I'll try and get into the comments next time we do this. It's just when we're having conversation streams like this, it's kind of hard to do so.
Yeah. And also, like I say though, too, Trevor, if you do want to talk the Sharks schedule, I'd be down to talk with it with you and stuff like that too, or whatever. So
yeah. All right, guys. Well, I gotta sign off for now. I gotta go get something to eat. I got stuff I gotta go do. So until next time, guys, we will see you guys later. You have a
Later.
great day.